start off with a joke if that's possible. Would you mind if I ask you a question? Thinking about it? And this guy? All right. So, how do you know that someone needs help?
When they're sitting alone,
A little louder?
when someone's crying or sitting over or bleeding or speaking a wall.
Perfect. Perfect. What a great answer, because there's psychology here, and actually we understand it from earliest days. When someone's crying, if they're bleeding, if they're sitting alone and no one's talking to them, yes, those people might need help, definitely. Well, what could you do if someone was crying?
Go over to them and ask them what's wrong and help them out.
Did everybody hear that? What's your name, hon?
Candida.
Candida. All right, so Candida says go over and ask them what's wrong and try and help them out. Very good. And if they're bleeding?
Try to help them stop bleeding, put pressure on it, and try helping them get up to go somewhere and get like a Band-Aid.
Okay, very good. Do what you can yourself, like put pressure on the wound, and then just try and see who has a Band-Aid. And suppose you see that there's a fight going on, a big kid's beating up a little kid. That's another thing that you might see and show someone needs help. Now, what would you do? Good. Go get a yet bigger person, an adult. Very good. Now I turn to you, grown-ups. How do you know that someone needs help? And I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios. An older lady, such as me or someone else, her car is pulled over to the side of the road at I-91, and you notice her getting a jack out of the trunk. Does that person need help? Yeah, I would need help, for sure. So, here's the thing. Hundreds of cars are going by. Are they all stopping? Because?
They're in a hurry to get something.
Yeah, they're going somewhere. Even a tiny percentage of people, you pass it so fast, and you're on your way. So one of the things I think we adults see is that oftentimes we see stuff that could mean that someone needs help, but we don't always respond. How about this? Just to follow up on what Candida said. You're riding on a public bus and you see that someone is crying. What do you do? How many people say nothing? Right. Why do you think people wouldn't go to that person and say, is something the matter? Can I help you? Yes?
Maybe they just want, maybe they're having a private moment.
Yeah, you're afraid that you will intrude on their privacy. That is what people tend to say. And so that's just like we're going somewhere fast. We see a lot of situations as adults that where we know in somehow, some way, help is needed, but it's not being offered. And I'll tell you something that happened in a church that I was serving, my first church, in Norwich, Vermont. A friend of mine, a clergy friend of mine, usually they have a vacation not too far from where the church was, so she came one Sunday to hear me preach. Now my friend was 5'10", very stylishly dressed, much more so than anyone there, and she was wearing a turban because she had been treated for cancer and her hair had fallen out. So this is a person coming in with a very distinguished look. Do you think people understood that she was new? Pretty obvious. Did anyone go over and talk to her? Only me. So after that, I wrote a little tiny editorial in the church newsletter and said, have you ever heard, be a fool for Christ? Don't worry about how it's going to look. Don't worry if you happen to find out that this person was a member of the church 10 years ago before you ever came. Be a fool for Christ. And you're welcome very much, everybody. And thank you, Candida, especially you.